Hi everyone, this is Mr. Sikandar. In today's video, we'll explore dictionaries in Python. Dictionaries are a powerful tool for managing data with unique keys that map directly to values. This allows us to organize information in a more efficient way. In this session, we'll be learning about the key characteristics of dictionary. How do we create a dictionary? How do we access the elements of a dictionary? How do we add new elements to a dictionary? How do we remove the elements? And how do we update the elements of a dictionary? How do we check out if a particular element is present in a dictionary or not? How do we use a loop to traverse the elements of a dictionary? And the various methods provided by dictionary. And then finally, we'll be looking at a complex dictionaries where the value parts can be a list or nested dictionaries. Let's begin. A dictionary is basically a collection, meaning it basically holds a group of elements. Like all the other data structures what we studied till now, list, tuple, set, they basically have every element will be one part, but whereas in a dictionary, every element has two parts, the key part and the value part. Okay, so we can say a dictionary is a collection of key value pair elements. It used to be considered as an unordered, meaning similar to a set, we does not maintain any particular order, but from 3.7 onwards, dictionaries basically maintain the insertion order. Okay. Now, a dictionary is a mutable object, meaning we can add elements and we can also remove elements from a dictionary. Similar to sets, a dictionary also consists of a collection of elements where the keys has to be unique. You cannot have multiple elements with the same key. Remember, this uniqueness is basically restricted only for the key part and not for the value part. Says keys are immutable. The elements which basically form the key part, they should be immutable data types. Like the key can be an integer, a string, it can also be a float, it can also be a tuple. Okay, the key cannot be mutable data types like set, list, or other dictionary. Now let's move into how do I basically create a dictionary. In a simple way, if you basically want to create a dictionary, we use flower braces. We already seen this in the set section where if we just use empty flower braces, this basically creates an empty dictionary. This basically creates an empty dictionary. I'm trying to verify this. Okay. Now, if I want to create a dictionary with elements, this is my empty dictionary. We learned how do we create an empty dictionary. Now, if I want to create a dictionary with some elements, within this flower braces, you can specify the two parts of each element. Okay. And those two parts, the key part and the value part, has to be separated with a colon. So we specify the key part, colon, then we'll specify the value part. Okay. This together basically forms one element. And again, we can put a comma. Again, we can specify the key and the value part for the second element and so on. Let's take an example where I would like to store the marks scored by a student in multiple subjects. So here, I'd like to specify the name of the subject as the key. Let us say science is the key part, the name of the subject, the marks scored, some numerical value. Then let us say computers, then some other value. Then again, okay, we can just say history, some other value. Okay, so here we basically created a dictionary of 3 elements where the keys are basically strings and the value parts were integers. I would like to capture this into a variable. I can just call it as marks. And I can print this marks. And I'd like to also try to print the type of marks. So here we can just observe, we basically got a dictionary with 3 elements. Fine. This keys has to be either integer or string, or even a float is allowed, a tuple is also allowed here. We'll look at it later. Now, once a dictionary is created, if I want to access the elements of a dictionary, how do I access? Like, for example, I'd like to access how much I have scored in science or how much I've scored in computers. If you want to access the elements of a dictionary, you mention the name of a dictionary, you use a square bracket. Inside this, we specify the key. We can specify computers. This will basically give me the value corresponding to that. Okay. The same way, if I say I'd like to know how much I've scored in history or science, I can just specify the subject name and that will basically give me the value part of it. Right? Same way, I can also get the science part. Okay. So the way you access it, you can just observe, you basically use a square bracket similar to what you use it with the list, but we don't specify something called as the index there, but instead the keys will basically act as an index. But now what really happens in case you're trying to access an element if the element is not present? Let us say we are trying to access a math subject, marks, and I don't have math here. I have science, computers, and history. I'm trying to specify a subject which I don't have it. So in that particular case, you can just observe it throws me an exception, or you can say it raises an exception. As we can see, if the key element is not present, it has raised an exception called as key error. Okay. Now, there's another way in which you can access the element. Okay. The other way is using a method called as get. So I can use the dictionary object name. I can use dot. I can use the get function and I can specify the key. So here you can just see the same way how I used to get the value for part using the square braces. Same thing I'm getting it here. Okay. So now I'd like to access not just for the computers, probably for other subjects also. History, or I can also specify science. Okay. So I could observe that I'm getting the same output here as well as for this one, same output. Okay. So there are two ways in which you can access. One is using the square bracket. The other one is using the get method. Now, the next thing is what will happen if you try to access with the help of get method and you're trying to specify the key which is not present. Key which is not present. So please observe, in that case, it does not raise an exception. It returns none. Okay. So by default, it basically returns none. So get method does not throw an exception if the element is not present. Now, get method also takes second argument. Okay, the second argument basically says that in case if the key element is not present, instead of returning none, that is, does not return anything. So what value would you like to return if the element is not present? Since math is not present, it'll return 0. The same thing if I basically use it for these subjects, I'll also try to use the get method for this with the second value, default value here. Remember, math was not present. It basically gives me the default value. For computer science and history, we had the, okay, keys out there. So it basically returned me the corresponding value part. So we learned two different ways in which we can access the elements. One is using the square bracket. The other one is using the get method. Okay, the key difference is the get method does not raise an exception if the key is not present. Plus, it also provides me an option to specify the default value to be returned if the key element is not present. Now let's look into how do I add a new element into a dictionary. If you want to add a new element to a dictionary, you can just mention the name of a dictionary and you can use a square bracket. You can specify the key and the value. Remember, as of now, we did not have math. Let me just show you before I could add this. We had only 3 elements here as of now. Okay, we had 3 elements. Now, in this case, I'm using a dictionary, the square bracket, and specifying the key. The key is not present. So in case if the key is not present, if you try to assign a value, what it does is it will add a new element to a dictionary with this specific key, and this is the value part. So after this statement, there'll be 4 entries in the dictionary. Okay. So this is how we can add element to a dictionary. Now, if you already have an element, and if I write something similar to this, I already had this element. So if I write this, let's say 89, or might be same way, let me also try to do it for other subject. Okay. So what happens in case if the element already exists? Does it add additional 2 elements? The answer is no, because a dictionary is a collection of unique key elements, right? So in that case, does it throw an exception? The answer is no. Then what does it do? It basically updates the value part. You can just see the computers previously it is 89. Now after this, you can just observe it has been updated. The same way math, previously it was 78, now it has been updated to 89. So this way you can even modify the value part of any key by using square bracket. Just make sure it appears on the left hand side of the assignment operation. If the key element is not present, it adds. If the key element already present, it will update the value part. Okay, next. Can I remove the elements from a dictionary? And the answer is yes, we can remove the element from a dictionary. I would like to remove the math subject, or I'd like to remove the history subject. So how do I basically remove it? In order to remove this, we have a method called as pop. Remember, the pop method was present in list, set also. Okay. Now, here also in dictionary also, it does provide me the pop method, wherein for the pop method here, we specify the key. Okay. So once you specify the key, it will go to remove the element with the specified key. So I'd like to print this here. Okay. Right. Now, I'd like to remove history. I can just write marks.pop. I can remove history also. We need to specify the key, not the value part. Okay. So key is, yeah. So what is the difference between this and this? Remember here, this statement returned me the corresponding value part we did not print. But later on, if you look at this dictionary, we saw that that element is removed. Here, okay, when I specified pop of history, okay, that history will be deleted. It returned me the value part of that. In an Excel, if you just look at marks, you will observe that history is also removed. Okay. Now, in case if you want to remove all the elements, we have a method called as clear. If you want to remove all the elements, but the dictionary reference should be present. So in that case, we can use clear. Clear will remove all the elements. Okay, it maintains the dictionary object reference, but removes all the elements. It also provides me one more method called as pop item. So for that, let me just first get back the dictionary, and then let me try to explain you what exactly the pop item method does. I have a dictionary here. We have a method called as pop item. Okay. The pop item, what it does not take any argument, unlike your pop method. It removes one element randomly. Which element will it remove? No assurance, but it will randomly remove one element. Okay, you can just observe it removed history. Clear? So if you just want to remove one element randomly, we can just use this. Now, see, we had our pop method with the list where we used to pass the index, and by default it was -1. We also had the pop method in the set where it did not take any argument. We also have a pop method with a dictionary where it takes the key. It basically takes the key. So you can just observe pop method is present in all these data structures which are mutable: list, set, and dictionary. But list takes index, pop does not take any argument, wherein dict basically takes the key. Okay. There's one more way of deleting a particular element. The other way is we can use del, right? Followed by, you can just specify which one you want to delete. Right, this way you can just see, okay, in this statement I removed history here, so I still had computers and science. So I'd like just execute this. You can just observe computers history. Using this delete command, you can even delete the any reference variables also. Okay, right. Now let us look into how do we verify if a particular element is present in dictionary or not. Okay, so here I can create one more dictionary. I can take up the same thing as what I created, or let me try to take one more example out here. I'd like to maintain the details of a particular student. Like, I'd like to create a dictionary where you have a name of a student, and let us say you would like to have a registration number of a student, number, and let us say you have marks. I'm just considering one simple marks of value. Okay, I will try to mention it as student. Fine. Now, so I'd like to just check out if I do have a registration number information for the student or not. So if you basically want to do that, I can just check out where the syntax is key in, we can specify a dictionary name. This is the syntax, right? I'd like to check out if a registration number in student, does it have a registration number in student? And this returns me a Boolean value. Yes, we do have it. Do we have marks? Yes, we do have it. Okay. Now let us say, do we have something like gender? Do we have a key called as gender? The answer is no. Right? Okay. So we just learned how do we basically use in operator. The same way, there is also a not in operator. We can just try to use a registration number not in student. This basically tells me false because I do have it. Then I'd like to ask if gender is not in student, then it says true. Okay, so we just learned how do we verify if a particular element is present or not. But remember, we specify key and dictionary. We cannot search based on the value part. We can only search if the key is present in a dictionary or not. Okay. Now, till now, we have been accessing elements one by one by using the array indexing syntax, square bracket, or by using the get method. Okay. Now let us say I'd like to use a loop and I'd like to traverse all the elements of a dictionary. Let us consider the student dictionary itself. Okay, I would like to access one by one, right? So what can I do? I can use for. I'll just use a variable, okay, and I'll use in operator, a dictionary. And if you just observe, it only prints the key part, only the keys. It only prints the keys. It does not print the values. Okay, this statement only prints only keys. Now the question is, how do I basically get the values? So we know that given a key, I can always get the value by using the dictionary name and the value part. Sorry, dictionary name, and you specify the key, it will give me the value part. Clear? Okay, so we can customize a little bit if you want the details of a student. Okay, right. Now, if you want to get all the keys without using a loop, we can do that. We can just write the method called as keys. This will basically give me all the keys. Sorry, keys. Okay. The same way, if I basically want to get all the values, I can use dot values. This probably I would like to put it in common dictionary methods dot keys. And if I want to get all the values, I can get all the value parts. There's also a method called as items. Items. So what does item do is it basically give you the key value part, but as a list of tuples. It's basically giving you as a list of tuples. Okay. Now you can use these items and you can combine it with the for loop. Okay. And you can get the key and the value part in this way. I can say instead of just, okay, this statement will only give me the keys. Instead of this, I'll say items. So this basically gives me a list of tuples. Okay. So now each tuple basically has the key part and the value part, right? Now I can do the job of unpacking here. I can say key comma value. And after that, I can just try to print the key part and the value part here. Okay. Right. Now, let us try to use whatever we have learned till now. Let us try to solve a problem. I'd like to perform the frequency count. Frequency count of all the characters in a given string. Like if I give a string equal to India, so in this I know that I is present 2 times, A is present once, D is present once, and N is also present once, right? I'd like to perform this. So for that, what you can do it is we can just create an empty dictionary. Okay, I can call it as frequency. I'll try to create an empty dictionary, right? Okay. And after that, I'd like to traverse all the elements of the string one by one. So first iteration will basically give me I, then N, B, I, A. So every time I get a character, I will just check out if that particular character is present in the dictionary or not. If present, access the value part, add 1 to it and put it back. In case if it is not present, add a new entry here. Okay. And finally, you will see a dictionary being created where I is present 2 times, N is present once, D is present once, and then A is present once. So you can also try out with any other string. I can say Karnataka. So in this, A is present multiple times out here, K is present twice, A is present 4 times, R, N, and T. And also observe, first we encountered K, so K was added, okay, as a first element. Then second time A was added, R was added, N was added. A, what it happened? It basically update the value part. If you wanted to see what is the frequency at every step, instead of just looking out at the end, I can try to print this frequency in every iteration. So here, initially, first you got K in the first iteration, and we set the value part as 1. This statement was executed. And then the next time A. So if you wanted to understand more in detail about it, what is happening and how is this basically changing, which line is executing, I'm just using one more tool called as Python Tutor. I'm using the same code snippet, right? So this website allows me to visualize things and perform step-by-step execution. So you can just observe data is set to Karnataka, frequency and empty dictionary is created. For the first time, the character will be the first character K. I'm going to check out is K present in dictionary. No, it's not present. So here you can just observe it goes to line number 7. Line number 5 is not executed. So it will add up K as one of the entries in a dictionary and sets the value part as 1. Second iteration, A is not present in dictionary. Again, it goes to line number 7. A is added. Then R is not present, it gets added with line number 7. Then again N, line number 7, it gets added. Now next time when I encounter A, this A character here, now A is already present and which had the value part as 1. So it goes to line number 5. So here you can see it'll fetch the value, which is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay, it updates the value part by 1. Okay, so totally the value of here will be 2. Then again, T is occurring for the first time. It goes to line number 7. So then again, A, you can observe A's frequency is increased to 3. K's frequency will be increased to 2. And A frequency is increased to 4. Fine? Okay. Now, the same code can also be written in another way, where instead of writing an if and else, where we are going to check out if the element is not present, or if it is present, we are trying to write a different code. We can try to rewrite this code with the help of get method. Okay. So what do? We use frequency, this is dictionary object, dot get, we pass on the character. And then we say that if the key element is not present, get me the value 0. Otherwise, get me whatever the corresponding value is. Okay. Now, once I get that, I'd like to basically set that in the frequency. I'll try to specify the key out here. That's it. Now, once I get the value part here, add 1 to that. And in case if it is not present, that portion will basically return me 0. Okay, this portion will return me 0 and 0 plus 1 is 1. So I'm trying to print the final result. I'll use the other tool, show you the step by step. Right? So I'm showing you the same information here. For the first time, get for the character K returns me 0 and 0 plus 1 is 1. That I'll be putting it into dictionary of K. Second time, A is not present. Again, get basically returns me 0. Okay, if you want to understand specifically what is this basically returning it. So if you want, you can try to write this separately. This is the value what I got. And this is the existing value plus 1. Okay, this will make things more better. right? Now, please observe A is occurring for the second time. So for A, we already have the element. So the value part is 1. 1 plus 1 will be 2. So we are putting it. Got it? So I showed you how do we perform the frequency count using two different ways. One, using the get method, and the other one without using a get method. Without using the get method, what happened is we were supposed to check out if the element is present or not, and we are supposed to write separate code for if the element is present and if the element is not present. And then we use the get method and then we shorten the code. Right. Next, let us try to understand a little bit more complex dictionaries where the values need not be simple numericals. Like, I'd like to create the details of a student where you have the name, yes, okay. You can have the registration number, some numerical value. But let us say the marks is not one value. I'd like to say the marks is of multiple subjects. I can basically mention that as a list. I can mention this as a list. So you can just observe that, yes, I got a list as the marks here. Okay. The value part can be anything. It can be a list, it can be a tuple, it can be a set, it can be another dictionary also. But remember, the key part, we have only been working with strings. The key part can also be numerical. Like I'll just, for namesake, I'll just try to write 1:5. So I can have the key part as an integer value, which is perfectly valid. Okay, I can also have key part as a float. That's also possible. But a key cannot be a list. Key cannot be a list. Clear? But a key can always be a tuple. It can be a tuple. Okay? Right. Now, the next thing is, here the marks does not specify which value is for which subject. So I'd like to make a little bit elaborated one here. I'd like to say the marks is another dictionary. I'd like to say that there are multiple subjects here and each subject has a name. So same way like what we created previously. I'll say math has this value. Then this is science. Okay, basically had this value. And let us say this is social. Okay, basically had this value. So we have a dictionary where the member of that is again dictionary. Now, how do I basically access the marks of a student, okay, in science subject? So for doing that, first specify dictionary name, just specify marks, the key part, but this will give you the marks in all the subjects. Okay, but I don't want to get details of all the subjects. One specific subject, again use the square bracket, specify which subject you want. You want to get in science? So I hope all the concept what we discussed with respect to dictionary is clear. Thank you.